Welcome to Topical Economics. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss any of our insightful videos on key economic concepts. In today's video, we're diving into the topic of supply. I'll be walking you through some past paper multiple-choice questions, carefully analyzing each one to explain why the correct answer is what it is. Whether you're preparing for exams or just want to strengthen your understanding of economics, this video will help you get to grip with important concepts in a clear and practical way. So, let's get started. Starting with the first question. A manufacturer of tinned beans mechanizes its assembly line. This increases output by 30% and reduces labor by 20%. How and why will this affect supply curve S? AS will move to the left due to an increase in average costs. BS will move to the left due to an increase in the price of tinned beans. CS will move to the right due to an increase in consumer demand. DS will move to the right due to an increase in productivity. Reference, 2022 May-June version 3. The correct answer for this question is option D. When a manufacturer of tinned beans mechanizes its assembly line, increasing output by 30% and reducing labor by 20%, this improvement in production efficiency will lead to an increase in productivity. The higher output means that the company can produce more beans using the same or fewer resources, while the reduction in labor costs lowers the average cost of production. These changes make the business more efficient, allowing it to supply more goods at any given price. In economic terms, this results in a rightward shift of the supply curve, S, as the manufacturer can now provide a greater quantity of tinned beans at the same price level. Therefore, the correct answer is DS will move to the right due to an increase in productivity. The mechanization of the assembly line leads to an increase in supply due to higher efficiency, not because of changes in consumer demand or the price of the beans themselves. Moving to question 2. The diagram shows a shift in the supply curve for New Zealand's airlines from S1 to S2. What is the cause of this shift? A. A decrease in the costs of New Zealand's airlines. B. A decrease in the number of people wanting to fly to New Zealand. C. An increase in the price of train and bus travel in New Zealand. D. An increase in the tax on air travel in New Zealand. Reference, 2021 October-November version 3. The correct answer for this question is option A. The shift in the supply curve from S1 to S2 to the right indicates an increase in supply. The cause of this shift is likely due to a decrease in the costs of New Zealand's airlines. When the costs of production, such as fuel, labor, or maintenance, decrease, airlines can provide more flights or services at the same price or the same number of flights at a lower price. This increase in supply is reflected by the rightward shift of the supply curve, meaning that, at any given price level, airlines are now willing and able to supply a larger quantity of flights or services. Therefore, the correct answer is option A. A decrease in the costs of New Zealand's airlines. Moving to question 3. The diagram shows a shift in the supply curve for cars in China from S1 to S2. What is the most likely cause of this shift in the supply curve? A. An increase in an indirect tax on petrol in China. B. An increase in the price of cars in China. C. An increase in the wages of Chinese car workers. D. A new subsidy given to Chinese car manufacturers. Reference, 2020 October-November version 1. The correct answer for this question is option C. An increase in the wages of Chinese car workers. Higher wages increase the cost of production for car manufacturers. When production costs rise, manufacturers may be less willing or able to produce as many cars at the same price, which leads to a leftward shift in the supply curve. Moving to question 4. The diagram shows how a government policy influences the market for biofuel crops in the private sector. According to the diagram, which policy does the government use and what effect does it have on the market? Reference, 2020 October-November version 1. The correct answer for this question is option A. A subsidy is a financial assistance given by the government to producers, which reduces their cost of production and makes it more profitable for them to produce the good or service. In this case, the subsidy would lower the production costs for biofuel crop producers, leading to an increase in supply. As a result, the supply curve shifts to the right, allowing more biofuel crops to be produced at each price level. The effect of the subsidy on the market is that it increases supply. This makes biofuel crops more available in the market, potentially lowering prices and increasing the quantity of biofuel crops supplied. A subsidy does not directly affect demand, rather, it influences the supply side of the market by making production more attractive and affordable for producers. Therefore, the correct answer is option A. Policy, subsidy effect, increases supply. Moving to question 5. The diagrams show the supply curve for an individual grower of tomatoes and for the total market supply of tomatoes. What explains the similarity of the two curves? A. As costs rise, growers need to get a higher price to increase output. B. At the lower prices, each grower supplies more tomatoes. C. The profitability per unit is the same for all growers irrespective of output. D. Supply is not always influenced by price. Reference, 2020 May-June version 2. The correct answer for this question is option A. As costs rise, growers need to get a higher price to increase output. Moving to question 6. The diagrams show changes in the market conditions for coffee. Which diagram shows the effect of a poor harvest of coffee beans? Reference, 2020 May-June version 3. The correct answer for this question is option A. Poor harvest of coffee beans indicates fall in supply, which is seen in option A diagram as supply shifts left from S1 to S2 with no change in demand curve. Moving to the 7th question. What is not held constant when constructing the supply curve of a firm? A. Indirect taxes and subsidies on the firm's products. B. The level of technology used by the firm in production. C. The price of the factors of production paid for by the firm. D. The market price of the good produced by the firm. Reference, 2020 February-March version 2. The correct answer for this question is option D. The market price of the good produced by the firm. When constructing the supply curve for a firm, several factors are assumed to be constant, but the market price of the good produced by the firm is not held constant. In fact, the supply curve itself shows how the quantity supplied by a firm changes in response to different prices of the good. The price of the good is the variable that drives movement along the supply curve, which is why it is not held constant. On the other hand, the following factors are held constant when constructing a firm's supply curve. Option A. Indirect taxes and subsidies on the firm's products are assumed to be constant because changes in taxes or subsidies would shift the entire supply curve. Next, option B. The level of technology used by the firm in production. Technology is assumed to remain constant when drawing a supply curve, as changes in technology would also shift the supply curve. Lastly, option C. The price of the factors of production paid for by the firm is also assumed to be constant when constructing the supply curve. If factor prices, e.g., wages, raw materials, change, it would affect the cost of production and shift the supply curve. Moving to the 8th question. What can cause the supply curve for a product to shift to the right? A. An increase in demand for the product. B. An increase in government subsidies to producers. C. An increase in indirect taxes on the product. D. An increase in the cost of production. Reference, 2019 October-November version 2. The correct answer for this question is option B. An increase in government subsidies to producers. This would reduce the cost of production for producers, making it more profitable for them to produce the good at every price level. As a result, the supply curve would shift to the right, indicating that producers are willing to supply more of the product at each price level. Moving to the 9th question. A government subsidizes the production of pineapples. This is likely to A. Increase the price of pineapples. B. Raise the costs of supplying pineapples. C. Raise revenue for the government. D. Cause the supply of pineapples to increase at every price. Reference, 2016 October-November version 2. The correct answer for this question is option D, cause the supply of pineapples to increase at every price. When the government provides a subsidy to producers, it effectively lowers the cost of production for those producers. With reduced costs, producers are willing and able to supply more of the product at each price level. As a result, the supply curve shifts to the right, leading to an increase in the quantity of pineapples supplied at every price point. This makes the good more available, typically driving prices down if demand remains constant. Analyzing the other options. Option A, increase the price of pineapples. A subsidy typically leads to an increase in supply, which would tend to lower prices, not increase them, assuming demand remains constant. More supply generally pushes the price down, rather than increasing it. Next, option B, raise the costs of supplying pineapples. A subsidy reduces the cost of supplying pineapples for producers, not raises it. It lowers the financial burden on producers, enabling them to produce more at a lower cost. Lastly, option C, raise revenue for the government. A subsidy does not directly raise revenue for the government. Instead, it involves the government spending money to support producers. While subsidies can have indirect effects on government revenue, such as through increased tax receipts from higher production, the direct effect is that the government is spending money, not collecting it. Moving to the 10th question. A government taxes the production of cars. What is likely to decrease? A. The cost of supplying cars. B. The price of cars. C. The revenue for the government. D. The supply of cars at every price. Reference, 2016 May-June version 1. The correct answer for this question is option D. The supply of cars at every price. When a government imposes a tax on the production of cars, it increases the cost of producing cars for manufacturers. Higher production costs typically lead to a reduction in the quantity of cars supplied at each price level, causing the supply curve to shift to the left. This means that producers are less willing or able to produce as many cars at the same price, effectively decreasing the supply of cars in the market. Analyzing the other options. Option A, the cost of supplying cars. A tax increases, not decreases, the cost of supplying cars. It raises the cost of production for manufacturers, which usually results in a reduction in supply, not a decrease in cost. Next, option B. The price of cars. While the price of cars may eventually rise as a result of the tax, because producers may pass some or all of the tax on to consumers, the direct impact of the tax is on supply, not price. The supply curve shifts leftward, which tends to push prices up over time, but the immediate effect is a reduction in supply. Lastly, option C, the revenue for the government. A tax on car production would increase, not decrease, government revenue, assuming the tax rate and production level remain constant. The tax is a source of revenue for the government, not something that reduces revenue. Thank you for watching this video on supply multiple choice questions. I hope the explanations of past paper questions and the reasoning behind the correct answers helped clarify some key concepts. If you found this video useful, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Topical Economics for more insightful lessons and exam tips. Your support is truly appreciated, and it encourages me to keep creating valuable content to help you succeed. Feel free to leave any questions in the comments, and I'll be happy to assist. Thanks again for being a part of the Topical Economics community.